Hey guys, welcome to this lesson on mindfulness versus unmindfulness. What that looks like, what it feels like, and what it means for us and the people around us. A few days ago, or maybe a few weeks ago, depending on when you had your Zoom lessons with me, we did an activity where I had you guys pause for 30 seconds. 30 seconds, that was it, to just pay attention to the sounds you were hearing around you. And in those 30 seconds, you guys heard some things that you normally wouldn't have paid attention to. Your brain blocks them out. There was a big list we came up with that had things like the sound of cars outside, or the air conditioner, or the computer fan, or siblings in the other room, or whatever else you guys were hearing in your home that you normally don't pay attention to. That's because you turned your brains on and we're acting and listening mindfully. So before that lesson, we talked about what it means to be mindful in those Mind Yeti activities or the mindful activities that I've done with you. We learned that being mindful means to pay attention to our thoughts and our feelings and the things going on around us without judgment. And we're going to explore what that means today with an activity and learning a little bit more about what it means to be mindful and unmindful. Have you ever had the experience of having someone say something to you that was really mean or hurtful and kind of surprising? Yeah, me too. You ever had a moment where you said something mean or hurtful that you didn't mean to say and you kind of wish you could take back? Me too. In those moments, your brain was reacting unmindfully. Let's talk about that. If you guys look at the chart here on the screen, you can notice that first our brain receives something called sensory input. That is anything going on around us that goes into our brain. So sights, sounds, smells, feelings, experiences, those are all sensory inputs that go into our brain and have to go through our security guard first. Just like at the mall or at the airport, when you have to go through security checkpoints or metal detectors before you can reach the next place, our brain has to security check everything that comes in too. And then our amygdala decides if that is something we need to be alerted to or not. Sometimes our amygdala reacts to things that it doesn't need to, and that happens. Let's look at this process with examples. So we might receive the sensory input of seeing a food that we've never tried before. That sensory input goes through our amygdala, and then if our amygdala is not alerted to anything dangerous, like a food that we don't like, then it goes to our PFC and we think, maybe I'll give it a try, even though I've never tried it before. That's a mindful reaction. However, that might go a little differently if you're thinking unmindfully. Sensory input of seeing a food that you've never tried before goes into our amygdala, and if your amygdala is in charge at that moment, you might say, nope, not going to try it. Never tried it before, don't like it. Well, that's not very mindful. How do you know you don't like it if you've never tried it? That's because your PFC is not in charge at that moment. Your amygdala is. You guys know what a fight, flight, or freeze reaction is, like we've talked about in class before? Well, that's what's happening. You see that food, it's orange. You say, orange food is gross. I've tried carrots before, didn't like carrots. All orange foods must be gross. Not going to try it. So your amygdala flights or runs away, avoids all orange foods. Well, if your PFC had been in charge in that moment, you might have said something more like, well, not all orange foods taste the same. Maybe I should give it a try. I might like it. Some orange foods might be delicious, like Cheetos. You never know if you don't try it, right? So that's an example of a mindful and an unmindful reaction in our brains. Mindful would be going to our amygdala, letting that take the time to calm down first, and our PFC then can take over and make a good choice and a mindful reaction. In that moment, you might still decide you don't like that orange food. But that's still a mindful reaction because you allowed your brain to take the time to make that choice. But if you receive that sensory input, it goes to your amygdala security guard and alerts you, and you say, nope, not going to try it, not even going to think about it. That is an unmindful reaction. This happens to everyone. It's not always a bad thing. It's just something to know about so that we can be in control when it happens. In this example of an unmindful reaction, we see the girl think, what if I fail the test? Her amygdala reacts and she says, I'm so worried. In the mindful version, she says, what if I fail the test? Then takes a minute to let her PFC think about it and finally says, it's going to be okay. In this example, she steps in gum. Her amygdala reacts and she's angry. Now, this time, she takes a mindful minute after stepping in the gum and thinks, I guess it's not a big deal. No biggie. Now you guys are going to put what you learned into practice by doing this activity on your Seesaw page. So you should use this tool here that looks like the finger with the little square on it to move each of these boxes into the mindful or unmindful category. Let's read them together, okay? Listening to someone read a story and being able to retell it. What do you guys think? Well, it sounds like that might take some time to listen to a whole story and focus enough to be able to retell it. That tells me that that's a mindful reaction. So I'm going to move this one here. Now let's read this one. Tasting a new food, even if it looks different from anything you've eaten. Well, that's kind of like the example from the video, right? Where we talked about orange foods. Well, you might try it, even if you don't like it, or you don't know if you like it. That's a mindful reaction because you're letting your PFC make that choice rather than your amygdala saying, nope, not going to try it because I don't know if I like it. All right, here's one that we might need to talk about. Crossing the street without looking both ways. You may have heard your parents or older adults tell you, always look both ways when you cross the street. Well, doing that takes time to let your PFC make good choices. The good choice of crossing the street after looking both ways. So, without looking both ways would be an unmindful reaction. Here, we'll do one more example, and then I'll let you guys do the rest of these on Seesaw. If you want to work with a partner when you're at home, if you have a sibling at home or parents to help, that's great. You guys can do that. Talking about these things helps you understand them. So here's the next one. It says, not speaking to someone because he or she has not spoken to you. That was kind of a tough one, right? Because you're making the choice to not speak to them. But if you let your PFC be in charge there, you might start to think about why they're not speaking to you. Maybe it's because they are busy. Maybe it's because they're having a bad day. Maybe it's because they don't know that you want them to talk to you. So this would be an unmindful reaction, choosing not to speak to someone because they haven't talked to you. So I'll read the rest of these to you guys, and then you can go back to your Seesaw, move them to mindful or unmindful, and then click this green check mark up here in the corner to turn it in. All right, this one says, practicing a new skill during a sports practice, or music lesson until you feel your body improving. This one says, helping someone in need. Kind of reminds me of that story I had you guys listen to about the boy with the 3 questions. Yeah. Trying to do too many things at once. Mindful or unmindful. This one says, leaving your shoes in the middle of the living room. Mindful or unmindful. This one says, daydreaming or tuning out to what is happening around you. Well, tuning out to me sounds kind of like you're not focusing. And being mindful means you're focusing and paying attention to what's going on. So what do you guys think about that one? Yeah. Here's what this one says. Keeping your voice quiet when other people are reading. Mindful or unmindful? This one says listening to someone and not speaking until they are finished. Mindful or unmindful? And the last one says ignoring a classmate who wants to join your game or group. So you guys will take each one of these and the ones that I put over here for you, and you will move them into the proper categories and then submit it to me. All right, thanks for joining me today, guys, for our lesson on mindful and unmindful reactions. See you next time.